Okay, so we're on to the cards. I use my own review system. So I use the Scuffle review system. And the biggest difference between my review system and the others is my review system is contextual within the set, and it determines the order that you're picking cards and prioritizing them as you build, not raw power compared to everything else. And this is important, especially in a synergy set. It's important because all cards are contextual now. Like, I bet anybody who's been doing the Chaos Draft has noticed how ridiculous some of the newer cards feel in relation to some of the older cards. So my review system is a little bit more complicated. That's why we do things in a video format. I give everything a rating from 1 to 10. That is the average rating, and that is pack one, pick one. If you don't know a lot, use that average rating. A 1 is a card you should never play under any circumstances. They are really, really rare nowadays. A 2 is a card you should do your best not to play. A 3 is a replaceable card. 4 is solid. It is okay if your deck is mostly 4s, but you really want to try and get most of them up to 5s, which is strong. A 6 is a card you will always play in a given color, or in this case deck, whether, like, if you're artifacts, you will always play this artifact card. 7 is a reason to be that deck. It's pulling you into that deck. It means that someone passed you that card, you say, oh, artifacts is open, I got a 7 of an artifact. And 8 is a card you will do extra work to play. That means you're splashing it. That means you're playing worse cards, maybe to make your fixing work or to enable that. A 9 is a card that you're doing this now. Whatever this card is, you're doing this now. Maybe it's an Oko, now you're blue-green, you just open an Oko. Maybe it's a Worm Coil Engine, you're gonna play a few extra lands, you might not be aggro anymore. Maybe it's an Areni in the last set, and you're adding 2 colors so that you can splash it. And a 10 is a card you will always play no matter what. 10s are very rare. In the last set, it was Ugin. Ugin was the only 10 that I really thought was like, you will always play this card. Then I also give everything a floor value. A floor is the worst a card will be. A ceiling value is the best a card will be. And then an effort value. That is the amount of effort it takes to bridge that gap. So floor will be a number, ceiling will be a number, effort will be none, low, medium, or high, and then that will turn into an average value. I do post these ratings, well, with Tyrant. We post these ratings to the gathering.gg, and then I update every week for at least the first few weeks. So 1 is like a battle of wits, or like we used to get comments all the time that were completely unplayable. I disagree, Theo. I think Ugin was absolutely making your Mardu aggro deck worse. I think to play Ugin in your red-white, so Ugin, first of all, always goes into Mardu aggro, because if you're 3 colors, you should be on at least 16 lands anyway. And the cost of playing Ugin is running a 16th or 17th land in your red-white aggro deck. If your red-white aggro deck was all 1, 2, and 3 drops, well, you're adding 2 4 drops and 2 lands to play your Ugin. Really? Yes, Spoon, that is exactly right. You will notice a bigger difference between the floors and the ceilings. I did try to account for that. So in synergy sets, I tend to discount colors. So in Dragonstorm, colors mattered a lot. Oh, one sec. We're gonna go back to here so you can see what people are saying. So in Dragonstorm, colors were a factor, right? Because if something was 2 or 3 colors, it mattered a little bit more. There was a lot of fixing. That was a 3-color set. In this set, I assume that you're usually 2 colors, so I don't factor in colors unless it's 3 or more colors. If it's a 3-color card, I will factor color into the which I haven't seen any yet. I'm assuming there's some at Rare and Mythic. But I don't factor colors into the difficulty, and you will see more higher difficulty cards. There are also going to be cards that I will point out and say, this card is great because it goes into every single deck that is playing this color. And then this card is weaker. It does always work, but it's never something you're happy to play. So we're going to move on now to the Signpost Uncommons. These cards take a little bit longer to talk about than any of the other cards, just because I will also be talking about their respective archetypes. Oh, and I randomly generated the order. So we are starting with Rakdos. So the Rakdos, the first Signpost Uncommon. So the Rakdos mechanic, like the archetype, is wizards that, so there are the things that make 0/1 wizards, and those 0/1 wizards all have the text, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, deal 1 damage to each opponent. So it's kind of like an attrition-y spells that I really like. This card, Black Waltz number 3. In other sets, it would be really good. This is a very contextual card. I gave it a 4 with a floor of a 3 and a ceiling of 7. It gets really strong in the right deck, but it's not free at all. And that's because it's so fragile. So a 4-mana 2/2 flying Death Touch in any set is always going to be evaluated based on the removal that kills it. And in this set, there is a 1 or 2 mana spell that kills it in all 5 colors at common. That's why the floor is so low. Like, you don't want to be paying 4 mana for your 2/2s unless it does so much work for you. You can make that happen. Like, Black Waltz number 3 can do a lot of work. 2 damage per spell is crazy good. I think you usually want to treat it as a 5 or 6 drop, because this isn't some, like, the way this you want this card to play out is a 2/2 flyer that deals 4 to 6 damage to your opponent, and then trades. So Carl says this is not a 2/3. I don't think this card would be remotely fair at a 2/3. At a 2/3, it gets so much harder to kill, at instant speed specifically. Like, the fact is that it's okay if your opponent kills this on their turn. Like, if this is a 1-for-1 trade with your opponent, it trades with a removal spell or a creature. After it deals 6 damage because you cast 3 spells, it's fantastic. But it's usually just going to trade 1-for-1 after you put 4 mana in, and your opponent doesn't get to kill it for 1 or 2 mana. I am excited to play this and build around it. A 1/3 would have been really good, Carl. I would play this card really well. Like, this is just a contextual thing. It's very fragile in this set. It also doesn't stack. It does stack in the sense that it trades and your opponent does it. If anything in this set that trades after generating some value is very good. There's not a lot of 2-for-1s in that sense. But this is a great card for that. They did a good job. Like, you don't have to fight the other archetypes for this. It's not a good card to splash. I can see it in some of the Grixis decks. But this Black-red really rewards your cheap instants and sorceries. Whenever you cast any non-creature spell, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Blue-red, you want those spells to cost 4 or more mana, and you have to spend 4 or more mana. That inherently limits how many you can cast per turn. So you want to play this card with lots of cheap spells, and if you untap with this, like, if you get to spend 3 turns with this card, you have won the game most likely. Cool card. It's just not as good as it looks on the surface. It's more work than it seems. I might end up raising the value to high later, but yeah, there's a lot of commons that punish this guy. Up next we have Garland. This card is really good. So, like, a 2-mana 3/2 is almost good enough. A 2-mana 3/2 that surveils on every non-creature spell is great, and then later it's just a 5/5. Like, this deck is not guaranteed to get to 7 mana. There's a few things that make treasures. There's a few pieces of ramp that are solid. But just playing this as a fair 3/2 for 2 mana in your black-red deck that later becomes a 5/5 flyer is so strong. Milling yourself out is a thing. Yeah, milling yourself out is a thing. So the fact that this ties to the bottom of your library is relevant. You are able to shuffle your library and draw it again. This is just very efficient. I gave it a 6. It's usually going to be a 6. It's almost always going to be a 6. It's just so efficient. I'm going to go ahead and lower the floor to a 5, but usually it's going to be a 6. That ceiling of an 8 is if you have the treasures package. There's a lot of good ways to generate treasures. If you can do that pretty consistently, get this out ahead of schedule, it's just so much value. Like, having a built-in 2-for-1 even at this cost is pretty nice. So this one I might end up dropping. It is really good. There's a lot of good ways to stop it. Again, this is a great example of a very strong creature that doesn't actually generate any value. Like, the looting is good. Blue-black cares about graveyards. It cares about putting things into the graveyards, casting spells from the graveyards, and then it's more of a controlling variant. It is a little more, it's a little easier than usual to take advantage of the graveyard. So, like, there's so many things, there's so many more ways to use the graveyard, and you are using the graveyard. So, like, in other sets, it's been like, well, if you have 10 cards in the graveyard, Like it costs 1 less for each creature in your graveyard, costs 1 less for each instant sorcery in your graveyard. Blue has cards that flash instant sorceries back from your graveyard, and there are actual cards with flashback, and there are cards that put a flashback card that has been exiled into your hand, and there are actual reanimation spells. Like, yes, using the graveyard is something Blue and Black has done a lot in the past, but in this set, it's way more interesting. There's so many different ways and interesting things you can do with your graveyard that I'm pretty excited for it. Lifelink and Death Touch are a great set of mechanics. It eats so many creatures, and this is a good card, but I might end up lowering it a little bit just to a 5, based on the number of ways that you can deal with this. Like, this is also good because there's not a lot of first strike or double strike. There's not a lot of things that just answer it, so you usually trade with something and gain 2 life and maybe loot a little. I'm just pointing it out because it doesn't generate card advantage. Like, there's not quite enough 2/3s to make that matter. Cool card though, very strong. Ooh, so I think that this is the first ever way to take an extra turn below rare. Usually this is a rare mythic effect. This card's just really good. So blue black as a control archetype. So Surveil 2 is almost worth a card. You will often be able to generate a whole card off your Surveil, whether you're putting a card with flashback into your graveyard, or a relevant creature into your graveyard that you can cast later, or just setting up your draws. I'm happy to play a 4/5 that does that. And then at 8 mana, you make a 7/7. Like, if you transform this, you probably have won the game. If you pay 8 mana for a 7/7 menace that time walks, then you're probably winning the game, especially because you also set up your turns. Like, it's a 5 mana 4/5 that just wins later. So graveyard control is what blue black does, and this is a reason to do it. One thing I was looking at I was looking at some of the rares, and there's like a lot of 8 and 9 mana spells that win you the game, right? There's a Saga creature that like destroys 2 permanents, draws 4 cards, but like, if you get to the end of that Saga creature and haven't won, something's wrong. So this is a good question. Tivar wants to know if you can respawn after they paid an exile. But yeah, your 8 mana wins you the game at uncommon, so I'm not really counting a lot of those rares and mythics as overpowered cards. You should assume you can get to 8 cards. This is a real cost though, like your graveyard matters. They can respond after you have paid the 8 mana in exile. So it's a great question, Lala. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 8 and exile 8 cards from your graveyard. If you do, that's what lets them respond. So they can stop it. But don't pay 8 mana if it looks like your opponent's going to be able to kill it. Wait, can they? I don't think they can. So is this a reflexive trigger? Can they respond to this? We need Quebec or Thane. All right, we're gonna find out and report back. They can counter the trigger. That I'm sure of. Yeah, it says if you do. You're right. I don't think they can respond. I was mixing up. So it says when you do, they can respond, but because it's if you do, they can't. Once you pay in the 8, you have a 7/7 menace and a time walk. Yeah, I just misread it. It doesn't change the evaluation. Like, you pay 8 mana when the game is locked down. Your control deck uses this to win. Ooh, I love this one. So one thing you might notice so far, every single signpost uncommon is a legendary creature. That does make it tough for a lot of these more expensive ones because, like, you can't play it. However, this one cycles and cares about the number of ones in your graveyard. So I gave it a 6 floor of 5, ceiling of 8. The more you have, the better. So artifact creatures and heroes, there are 24 artifact creatures. So all of the job select equipments make heroes, and there's a lot of artifact creatures in addition to that. There are 24 creatures that this pumps. However, some of them also make more creatures. There's one card that puts 4 heroes into play. There's another card that makes a hero every turn. There's an artifact creature vehicle that puts a hero into play. And there's an artifact creature that you pay 3 mana and search for more copies of it. There's a lot of really good ones. So the thing about, so Spoon says they're going to try and make Mirror Box Sid a thing. You don't have to. 1 Sid is enough, because the way this reads is all artifact creatures and all heroes get +1/+1 for each Artificer in your graveyard and in play. If you have 5 Artificers in your graveyard, this gives all of your other creatures +6/+6. How many heroes do you need for +6/+6 to be enough? The cycling is really nice too because of the legend clause. Like, you just cycle it. If you get to play 5 Sids in your deck and cycle the extras. I will be putting this up on YouTube, Houdini, after probably tomorrow, as soon as I am able. So yeah, Sid is very good. You are happy with a 4 mana 4/4 that gives +1/+1 to artifact creatures. You are ecstatic if it gives +2/+2 or more. There are 2 other Artificers in this set. One of them is black and is really good. It's like a Blood Artificer. It's very strong. And then the other one is just okay. It's a 4 mana 2/2 that attaches an equipment. It is pretty much just for equipment decks. Sid is really good in this set and worth building around. I'm not harshing your Mirror Box, Buzz. I am ecstatic for your Mirror Box, Buzz. Like, you get to play this deck and it'll function even if you don't draw Mirror Box. It's better without it. All right. Yeah, but blue-white is artifacts. Like, it's artifact creatures more specifically, but really it's artifacts. Up next, Titus. So the Titus is another build around. Like, it's really good with artifacts if you have a lot of artifacts, but he's fragile, right? So lots of stuff kills it the turn it comes down. Lots of stuff kills it after 1 artifact comes into play. Once you get 3 or 4 artifacts into play, he's really, really strong. So yeah, you want to play him in a deck where you can put 3 or 4 artifacts into play after Titus. As a 3 mana 2/1 tapper on attack, it's pretty average, but as a 3 mana 5/6 tapper, it's great. You should plan to get 3 artifacts into play after Titus if you're going to play him. And the artifacts decks don't lean that aggressive. You can make them be aggressive, but it's some work. They get a lot of value. Like, the artifact decks have so many powerful mana sinks. There's so many good things to do with their mana that they just aren't crazy aggressive. They're more mid-range. Yes, once it hits 5/4, the card's great. So plan, like, I gave it a 4 with a floor of 4, and it's usually gonna play near that floor of a 4. It's a 4 if it's a 3 mana 2/1 that taps on attack and then gets bigger a little later. But if you get it up to that ceiling with 7, if you have enough artifacts, then it's gonna do a lot of work for you. Okay. On to green, white. Yes, dodge that overkill. All right, so Garnet, Princess of Alexandria. This card is really good because a 2 mana 2/2 lifelink is really, really good. Yeah, like a 2 mana 2/2 lifelink, incidental life gain is something that's valuable in this set. There's lots of things that are just going to be trying to pinging you, and because of the way Saga creatures work, life can translate to card advantage. So if I gain 10 life, so if we run back to this Saga we looked at before, gaining 6 life is equivalent to drawing a card if my opponent has the Ifrit. So incidental life gain is inherently more valuable. It also, there's good aggro decks, so stopping the aggro decks, like, incidental life gain is just a good thing to have, and there's not a ton of it. With one Saga, she removes vanishing counters from things. Like, your Sagas stay in play longer for it, and she grows. If you have 3 Sagas, put 3 counters, they all live an extra turn. Very strong. Garnet's going to be so much fun to play around, and yes, Theo, green-white is Sagas. So every color does have Sagas that common or uncommon, but there's the most white and second most green. And the green Sagas are also really, really good. The green common and uncommon Sagas are great. Excuse me. Like Fat Chocobo is very good. And if you can pull the, like, if you play the Fat Chocobo, it comes in with a 2/2, and then you pull the lore counter off of it, then the next turn it makes another 2/2. Then it continues to make a 2/2 every turn until they kill one or the other of your creatures. And in order to do that, they need to deal with your 5 mana 4/4 or 2 mana 3/3 with lifelink. So yeah, Garnet is high floor, high ceiling, great card. You don't need a ton of sagas. You need one saga to make her good. If you have a ton of sagas, she's great. So this 5, she's a 5 with 0 sagas, a 6 with 1 saga. You should expect it to be 1 saga most of the time, and an 8 with 2 or more sagas. Ooh, Renoa. This card is just very strong, very efficient. 5 mana for a 5/5 spread across 2 bodies, except it attacks as way more than that. Every time she attacks, something gets huge, and this is one of the good payoffs for going wide. So I gave her a 7, ceiling of 7, floor of 5. It's usually going to be close to that ceiling of 7. And this is just to highlight how my system works. Garnet is a 6 on average, but she can be better than a Renoa. If you're going wider, Renoa is going to be a 7. If you have more sagas, then Garnet's going to be better. So red-green. So if we look back at the Chocobos, so Fat Chocobo here, it works. So it makes a 2/2 green bird with landfall. This token gets +1/+0. So red-green is kind of landfall. Green-white is kind of sagas. The Fat Chocobo is the bridge between green-white and red-green. Hey, Christmas, it's good to see ya. All right, so red-green cares about landfall. This is a 6 mana 6/6, draws a card. It goes to get a land, puts it onto the battlefield. That is worth a card. Lands are good. It also gives something +2/+2 when it comes into play. If you play it on turn, like a 6 mana 6/6 that gives something else +2/+2 and trample when it comes into play, and then again every turn, is very good. This is a good card. So I gave it a 6, floor of 6. It's usually just gonna be a 6 mana 6/6. It's a good card. Pumping something, it's a 6 mana 6/6 that pumps something when it comes into play. That is good. And then that ceiling of a 7 is when you're a dedicated landfall deck. You can be a dedicated landfall deck. There's good ways to pick lands up and replay them. And do note, it's not a basic land. It's any land. There's some rare lands in this set, and there's some utility lands that uncommon in this set because of towns. We'll talk about towns in a bit. So back red-green landfall. Rydia is a 2 mana 1/2. So this one's a little bit more work than the other one, but it's a lot cheaper and it's a good card. So a 1/2 rummage or landfall rummage looks really good. It's not quite as good as it looks, just because lands are usually what you want to get rid of in the late game. So like in the late game, we have all these rummage cards, right? That you're really excited to have, like a Discerning Peddler, 2 mana 2/2 when it comes to play rummage late in the game. Because you have an extra land, you play it, you pitch the land. That doesn't work with Rydia. With Rydia, you need to have 2 lands to turn one of them into a new card. It's great on turn 2. It's just would be higher if it were great in the late game. However, this summon ability is really good in the late game. Picking up a saga creature and giving it haste is fantastically powerful. She just ends up being a little bit fragile and understated, so that's why her floor is so low. But you want to focus on the summon ability, not the landfall ability here. Yeah, like Naya Sagas with Rydia and Garnet is going to be great. Saga decks do want to end up being 3 colors often, just because some of the sagas do help you with your mana, and you are going to have difficulty accessing enough sagas in only 2 colors. But yeah, I just want, like, this card is very good, but the landfall ability is not as good as it looks at first glance. All right, I need some water, and I will be right back. I like the song. All right, let's run an ad real quick. Just while I get some water, and I'll be right back. We can move on to Simic. We're halfway through the multicolored cards. Fire! Okay, I'm back. Let's do this. Yeah, you're right, Spoon. There's some good red sagas. All right. On to Simic. So Simic is like a little, it struggles with its identity a bit, but I think they approach it in a pretty clever way. So it's kind of ramp, but what you ramp into matters. Like, and what you ramp into changes a lot. So this card, if it's a 7 mana 8/8 that taps a thing, that's not good enough. But a 7 mana 8/8 take a thing out of the game for 5 turns, gain 5 life is really strong. So the 7 mana 8/8 does a lot of work in general. The X stun counters gain X life is really strong at like 3, but you're not guaranteed the non-basic lands in this set. You really want to be like paying attention to how many artifacts you have. Being an artifact creature is almost more of it hurts it more than helps it, just because they can broken wings it, but still a really good card in the right kind of ramp deck. And there's so many different things you can do with ramping in general. Blue green sort of has a towns theme. So there are cards that will get bigger with your towns or gain life because of your towns. And because it's Final Fantasy, towns are, there's a lot of towns and they're pretty good. Like, it's just a land type. They're like Guild Gates and Ravnica. But they're just make 2 colors and they are a town. And we'll talk a lot about towns when we get to the lands and then again with blue. But all blue towns are inherently a little better because of cards like Omega. If you have the towns, this card's great. Kill a thing for a long enough period of time, gain some life. On an 8/8 for 7 mana is very good. And there's a lot of ramping. We'll look at it. But I gave it a 5 with a floor of a 4 and a ceiling of 7 because you really don't want this to be just a large creature. This isn't a set where just being big is good enough. The last set was. Hi Usagi, good to see ya. Yeah, it's a lot like Caves, Theo. So this is my set review. So I am doing I'm trying not to check the chat until I'm in between slides. Ignis Scientia. I don't know this person. I don't recall seeing them in any of the Final Fantasy games. But this card's just efficient. So like earlier I said that this is a set with a low amount of 2-for-1s. 3 mana, put a land into play is a 2-for-1. That's pretty good. And it's not basic lands, it's any land. So you can grab a town with it. This extra ability, I would say it's just gravy, but it's pretty relevant. Lots of different decks use the graveyard in different ways. And so just having access to this means your opponent can't use a Snapcaster to give something flashback. And they can't use the they can't like raise dead. They can't return a creature from the graveyard to play. The food is also relevant. Enough cards care about putting an artifact into play or having artifacts in play that the food matters, and like the life gain matters too. Incidental life gain is pretty good. That would explain it, Usagi. I played 7 and 8. I played a little bit of 12. Is 12 the MMO? I played a little bit of the MMO and most of 13. I really liked 13, but apparently that's not a popular opinion. All right, that's cool. I mean, that looks delicious. Wait, is he eating people? Is Ignis eating people? Then I played some 14. The implication of this card is that he founds a town and then eats a person. Exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature, make a food. It's only food if it was a person. All right, so Simic ramp is very flexible. They did a better job of Simic than in other sets. All right, Cloud of Darkness. This card's really good. Oh, that's fair, Thane. This is less wasteful that way. So a 5 mana 3/3 kill something with flying is great. I went back and raised this when I realized how few flyers are in this set. There are very few flyers in this set, meaning like a 5 mana 3/3 flyer is almost good enough without destroy something. And it's really easy to enable. So like that floor of a 5 is if it kills something small. That ceiling of a 7 is if it kills something big. But if we look back at our stats from the beginning, there are 9 pieces of recursion in this set. There are 9 ways to get this card back from your graveyard if you mill it or after it dies. There is also 5 5 sources of self-mill and 8 sources of surveil. It's really easy to fill up your graveyard. It's really easy to pick it up. Like I'm sure you've had formats in the past where you played your Raised Deads on Ravenous Chupacabras, or you get to do that in this set. The existence of this card makes all recursion better, and the amount of recursion makes this card better. I gave it a ceiling of a 7, and it's usually going to play near that ceiling of a 7. This is one of the best uncommons in the whole set. Green-black is permanence in your graveyard. So it cares about graveyard specifically, but it's more interested in permanence, and it's not difficult to put permanence into your graveyard. I think they use, if I had to guess, this was originally just cards in graveyard or like creatures in graveyard. Did I just delete my slide? No, here it is. All right, so if it's, and permanence in graveyard makes the most sense just because it keeps people from fighting over different things to put in their graveyards. All right, up next is X-Death Voidwalker. So this card is a 3 mana 3/3 gain 3 life. That's good. We've talked a lot about how good incidental life gain is. So I gave it a 5 with a floor of a 5, and it's usually going to be about there. If you get to the extreme late game, this is a win condition. Generally, what you want to happen is you'll play it normally as a 3/3, and then later on it'll turn fairly large. But if there are 6 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, you transform it, and it's at least a 6/3 with trample. So your opponent, this will usually trade with something after gaining 3 life. If you're dedicated to protecting it and using it as your win condition, you can do that, and it's going to play closer to its ceiling of a 7. All right, black-white. Black-white, first we have Rufus Shinra. Black-white it's almost aristocrats, but it's more about just things dying, and it does care about artifacts or creatures dying. Also, they're saying artifacts die now. Artifacts can die, not just living things. So I did revisit this one a few times. In the past, a 3 mana 2/4 that makes a 2/2 on attack would be busted, but in this set, basically the categories of decks are, I have a small Death Toucher that eats this. It just lines up coincidentally badly with a few things. Like if your opponent has a Titus or a Lock, then they'll probably be able to beat this, but it's still a good card. Like usually it will be a 1.5 for 1. In the right deck, if you use combat tricks protected, it's going to be a lot better than that. So I gave it a 5 to play somewhere. It's going to play somewhere in between. Some decks just don't care about this body or the creature that it makes. Generally, it's like fine. Yeah, I gave it a 5, floor of 4, ceiling of 6. I mean, it's a good card. Like it's a 3 mana 2/4 that makes a 2/2. Nothing uses it that much. If you can sack that 2/2 to trigger Judge Magister, then you can keep making a 2/2. It's just some work. You want to pair with some tricks. I'm gonna go ahead and, no, I think this is pretty accurate. It's hard to make it better than a 6 just because of the size of the bodies that it has and makes. All right, Judge Magister Gabrianth. 2 mana 2/2 Menace is really good. There's not a lot of keyword abilities. Menace is better than usual also. Menace is better than usual. Because making your opponent block with their sagas, like you're making it so that your opponent can't trade away sagas on demand is a valuable thing. I gave it a 6 with a ceiling of 6. If you get one counter on this, if it's a 3/3 with Menace, it feels so much better so quickly. But you also get to attack with a 2/2, and then there's a lot of artifacts that sacrifice but for a real cost. Like if I have a couple food in play from something or clues, and I have that 2 mana up, my opponent can't easily block this. You might be right, Theo. Actually, hold up. Give me one sec. So, for those of you who don't know, there's a lot. We put a lot of work into this, and I do want to give Lion a special thank you. Not this one. No, this is my counts spreadsheet. Creature keyword rarity. There are 0 commons with Menace in the set, which is what I was. Oh, you can't see that. What's the best way to show you? I don't want to. Here. Let's do it like. I know what to do. All right, so there are in this set 0 commons with Menace. I think that's the lowest since they've introduced Menace, but there are 6 uncommons with Menace, which I think is the highest since they've introduced a set with Menace. Yeah, 1 double striker, 4 total death touchers, and then 1 thing that makes death touches really low. Cycling is nice though, and then there's lots of like mountain cyclists. There's a lot of returning mechanics, adventure, cycling. I like the transforms a lot. Yes, and 6 treasure makers. That's very relevant. But yeah, so you see how low a lot of these 0 lifelingers, 0 meld, well, 0 menace, 0 prowess, 2 reach. No, I really like it. But yeah, good. This is a really good question, Theo. So menace as a keyword is way more common than usual, but we will see it probably about the same amount because they're all on uncommons. Love that. Good point. All right, up next we've got Gyat, King of the Dwarves. So there's 3 total dwarves in this set, including this guy, but there are 16 pieces of equipment, 12 of which are just creatures. And this works well with all of them. This is the only double striker in this set. There's a side quest that rewards something that gives you double strike. But yeah, this double strike is just a rarity. Like if this had first strike, I would be pretty happy, but double strike is great. 2 mana 1/1 double strike is good enough. 2 mana 1/1 2 mana 1/1 that rummaged this often is good enough. The fact that they're both in the same card makes it really good. I'm actually raising this. No. I'm raising the floor. No, because you can just, it's a 4. All right, it's a 2 mana 1/1. If it's a 2 mana 1/1 double strike, no other text is a 4. If it's with a few equipment, it's a 5. If you're in the deck dedicated, then it's a 7. That deck's really good too. The equipment deck is, yes, it ETBs and rummages. That's why I'm really like trying. This should be a 5. The floor should be higher, but I don't want to change the effort because it's not that hard to get to that ceiling. Yeah, this card's really cool. I love it. It's like not overpowered. It's going to feel, it's the kind of card that your opponent is going to play this and you're going to lose, and a newer player won't realize they lost because of this card. I love cards in that category too. Unlike this next one, like Zidane, you absolutely know when you lose to Zidane. So this is up there for best threaten effects we've ever had. So this is 5 mana 3/3. Threaten a creature, give it lifelink, so you get that incidental life gain, and then you get a treasure when you give it back. So it is hard to sacrifice this. The steal and sack option is really difficult. All the sack outlets are black and they all cost at least, so there's a 2 mana removal spell that lets you kick or sacrifice a creature. That one is really good with this card. And then there's a good death touch flyer that lets you sacrifice creatures, but that gets expensive because it's 5 mana. But this is a really good card. Being able, like a 5 mana 3/3 threaten, gain some life, get a treasure is great. Yeah, I think this is better. Like you can make an argument for like Karizev's Expedition, the rare threaten, or even Grab the Reins because it always kills the creature. But yeah, this is a great threat. It's very strong. And this is a threat, like this is not a build around steal and sack card. I didn't assign any value to your ability to sacrifice the creature because it is actually very difficult to do. If you're going to sacrifice the creature you take, then you need a Vicious Offering or to be in 3 colors, and you need at least like 7 or 8 mana. But this is actually just good as a threat. I'm happy to play this. So I gave it a 6. In your most aggressive decks, it's going to be a 6. It's going to be a 7 in your mid-range deck. Yeah, there's another red threat in this set. Let's talk about this. So there is a red threat in this set. There's a 3 mana gain control of target creature, and it does something else. There is a self-destruct. I forgot about self-destruct. So Random Task brought up that there's a card called Self-Destruct in this set, which we'll pull up really quick. Because I was only looking, target creature you control deals X damage to any other target and X damage to itself. So there's also a vicious, So yeah, self-destruct is really good with this card. That is almost enough for me to raise the ceiling. No, it's not quite there. So that's a great question thing. Self-destruct might not always kill. I think it kills often enough, and you just change your target based on whether or not it kills. Yeah. Oh, Deadly Dispute. I haven't looked at the bonus cards yet. So that's a third card. All right. So that doesn't actually raise the floor, but it does drop the difficulty. So we're dropping the difficulty on this. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so we have self-destruct. We have the 2 mana, give a creature -2/-2, kicker, give it -6/-6, and the kicker is sacrifice a creature. And then we have the bat that sacrifices a creature to draw a card. Yes. So I thought that was the only one. The thing about the red threaten is you can steal and sack with that one. So like actual threaten, 3 mana, gain control of a creature, you do get to play that alongside these other sack outlets more easily. The reason that I didn't count for that so well for Zidane is that you needed to be at 7 mana with 3 colors. But because of the red one and the existence of Deadly Dispute, we're dropping the effort. Also, didn't know Deadly Dispute was available. I haven't looked at the bonus cards yet. I like being surprised. So I'm pretty excited to see those at early access on Wednesday. Yes, that one's great. But again, that's 8 mana. So this is just a good card for closing out a game or racing. All right, great. Up next, Shantoto. So blue and red cares about non-creature spells, but specifically spending mana on the spells, and that mana being 4 or more. So I like the way they do this. So if somehow your opponent made your spells cost more mana, it would also trigger it. You really want... So Shantoto is a little odd because what I say about these cards a lot of the time is this is a 1/3 with a threat of activation. You don't get to attack with this threat of activation, but you get to block with this. If you pass the turn with 3 lands in hand and 4 mana up, and your opponent has 3 3/3s, they don't get to attack you. Like, I think that's a really cool threat of activation. But ultimately, this one is a lot more work than some of the other signposts. Like, you will play Rufus because it attacks. You will play Cloud of Darkness because it's very easy. Shantoto is very powerful as a build around. If you draw 1 card off of that, it's going to feel great. If you draw 3 cards off of it, you've probably won the game. And you can kill. Like, there are X spells in this set. You can pay X mana and give her +X/+O. But yeah, it's a little more work than the others. There's more of a build around. You need to be the spells deck for it. She's harder to splash. Love the card though. I'm pretty excited to play with it. All right, our other blue-red one is 2 mana 2/2 ramp creature in blue-red. So good. Like, this is where we see red being able to make mana, gaining some strength and impact. The first spell you can, so on turn 2 you play this as a 2/2. On turn 3 you spend 4 mana to cast a non-creature spell and it grows. And then on turn 4 you spend 4 mana to cast a non-creature spell and it attacks for 4. And then on turn 5 you spend 4 mana to cast a non-creature spell and it attacks for 6 damage, plus all the spells in your graveyard, all to choose them for 3. So this one is also a little bit of work, but it's really good and it's better in a vacuum than Shantoto. You don't need spells for this to be a playable card, but it is much better with the spells. Yeah, but it makes mana. It's at least 4 mana to grow. So because it makes mana, on turn 3 you can grow it. It keeps the counters when it flips, because it just flips. It doesn't exile and then return. Also, hey, Wingspear. I love the way they did blue-red this time. It's so much more interesting. Like, so we see blue-red spells all the time. Like, we see blue-red whenever you cast a non-creature spell, whenever you cast an instant, whenever you cast a sorcery, number of instants sorceries used in graveyard. They've done all these different flavors of it. This is so much more interesting. This is close to what we saw in, like, Strixhaven. They did a great job, and the problem with having a card whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card, you now have to balance every single non-creature spell you have, because you can't risk having 3 crash throughs or 3 might of the meek or 3 opts and having it function. But yeah, like, I think they nailed it this time. Blue red feels so good, and that's because it's mana spent on the spell. So you have cards like here, Oracle Flashback. If you cast your Dreams of Laguna, it's a little hard to see, but 2 mana, surveil 1, draw a card. 4 mana flashback, surveil 1, draw a card. The flashback of 4 is better than a flashback of 3 for this archetype, because it triggers all of these mana value 4 or more. Yes, and so I love it because blue red is big spells, and then they still kept the small spells, but that's in black red. Black red cares about any non-creature spell. I'm pretty excited to draft this. Think Twice. So that card is Think Twice with Surveil, plus the Surveil costs 1 more mana. It is a lot better than Think Twice. Also, it's hard. There's not a lot of cost reducers. All right, so that's gonna do it for our multicolored cards and our archetypes. Yeah, that card's really good in this set, Carl. Like, it's 2 mana Curate with Flashback. It's 2 mana Consider with Flashback. Flashback is just a good thing to have access to in this set. All right, so that's all the multicolored cards and archetypes. We're moving on to the artifacts now. Our first artifact is Adventurer's Airship. Normally I would put this a lot lower. However, flyers are that rare. Like, there's just not enough flyers, but I did think this was crew 2 instead of crew 1, so I'm lowering the floor. Flyers are very rare. Looting is very valuable. We've looked at a lot of rummagers, like discard a card, draw a card. We haven't seen a lot of draw a card, discard a card. That's a lot better in this set. Putting in an artifact is nice. And yes, this is a very expensive looter scooter, but looter scooter is really good in this set. There's just so few flyers that giving, I did think it was Common Smuggler's Copter, but it's still good. There's actually just not that many creatures that don't crew it because of how the job selection works on the equipment. And equipment in general make higher crew costs better, right? So it's a good card. Looting is good. You want pretty much every other flyer before you take the airship, but there's so few flyers, you'll still end up running the airship. You just can't fit too many in your deck. Smuggler's Copter didn't have vigilance, but also worked on blocks. Elixir. So this is a very weak card, but it does have a place. This is a card with a place. There's a dedicated self-milled deck. So how much life do you have to gain for 5 mana to be worth it? I think 10. I think at 10 life, if I'm just paying 5 mana, I'm okay paying 5 mana for 10 life. If you are the self-mill deck, like, shuffle all non-land cards from your graveyard into your library. Like, imagine that you have no cards in your library. Well, for the rest of the game, you only draw heat. You only draw relevant cards, and you buy the time for there to be a rest of the game because you gained 10 life. I don't think it is playable outside of that deck, and I don't think that deck is restricted to colors. I think you just have to have a reasonable, like, if your deck is bombs, removal, self-mill, then you can play the Elixir. The other thing about the Elixir is being a 1 mana artifact is relevant. Like, this, you have to both want a 1 mana non-creature spell and be a self-mill control deck for this card to be playable. That's why I gave it a floor of a 1, average of 2, ceiling of 6. It's very high effort, but you're going to see people, you're going to lose to this. You will lose to a hard control deck playing this card. It's a cool card. It's not very good, but it is cool. All right, Instant Ramen. Don't ignore the life gain, ignore the food. You only want this if you care about having artifacts in play. I mean, I'll play it in a control deck. But yeah, Sandblock will definitely be playing it. So instant speed artifact is relevant for some cards. Cards care about artifacts coming to play. an artifact drawing card is relevant if you care about artifacts, but you don't play this otherwise. Right, exactly. The White-Black Menace art card likes this because you gain 3 life and it dies. Like, it's a cantrip that pumps your White-Black Menace. But yeah, ultimately, this is a card you don't take unless you know the home for it. And you'll know if you have the home for it. So I gave it a 3, floor of 3. The home for it, it'll in the deck that wants it, it'll be a 5. But you'll know it. Iron Giant. I kind of love that they gave this. I mean, it's a good reference. But this is not the finisher you want. But having a colorless finisher that any given deck can put in is worth it. Like, no deck actually wants this over other cards. If I'm a blue-green ramp deck, I definitely want Omega. If I am a blue-black control deck, I definitely want Ultimisia. But it's not always going to work out that you get those cards. So be prepared to play Iron Giant if you don't have it. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and drop it to a 3, but it does the job. Exactly. This is what you want your finisher to have. It's a little fragile because it dies to an artifact. But like Vigilance, Reach, Trample, it just hits. And you don't have to hold it back to block if you're the control deck. Like Vigilance, Reach, Trample is a good set of keywords on a card like this. We are so spoiled, Carl. We are like, I agree with you, but we are so spoiled that Vigilance, Reach, Trample isn't a little something. How far we've come. Yeah, like if they just kill it, it doesn't have value. That's why it's a top end card. Like you can't just ramp into it, it's too fragile. Lionheart. So this kills 45% of the creatures in this set. I'm giving this a revisit. Like it's solid if you, it's a bad removal spell and a bad equipment. Yes, it is a colorless demon. It is a bad removal spell and a bad equipment, but being both might give it enough. I gave it a revisit at 4, floor of 3, ceiling of 5. 2 damage is just like, it's not a bad stat line, but the fact is you are limited on the number of equipment you can have in your deck, and I don't know that this makes the cut often enough, but like I'll take it over an Iron Giant most of the time. Like it's fine. I gave it a revisit. Lunatic Pandora. So we've been seeing these a lot. This is your bad removal spell. When you don't have enough removal, you can table your Lunatic Pandoras and you'll have bad removal. Like you'll have removal. Sometimes you need a bad removal spell. This is your Bumbleflower's Share Pot. It does it fine. I haven't seen like anything that rebuys, there's lots of things that rebuy permanents, Theo. I haven't seen anything that rebuys like artifacts with mana value 1 or less, and usually I don't want to rebuy this one, but the Surveil is relevant, the Destroy is very relevant, and the being a 1 mana artifact is relevant. There will be decks that want this. Oh, cool. There is apparently a rare that does it. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, being legendary is annoying. But yeah, it has a place. It's not an unplayable removal spell. It's just a kind of bad removal spell. I'm gonna go ahead and raise the floor. Like I am okay treating this as 7 mana destroy non-land permanent. But you get to trigger your black and red spells and there are ways to recur it. All right, Magic Pot. I came back to this one. I did not mean for the floor to be quite so low. So this is a 3 mana 1/4 that dies into a treasure is good, especially if you're trying to keep an artifact in play. And exiling any card from a graveyard ended up being very relevant. Being able to hit a card from a graveyard is relevant against a lot of decks, even if it's overcosted. But dying into a treasure is why this card is playable. So yeah, there are a lot of legendary cards, and there's a lot of, there's not really any payoffs. There's like nothing, there's a couple cards that, there's a rare if you control 4 more legendary creatures that I saw, but there's not a lot of reasons, there's not a lot of bonuses for legendary creatures. This one I meant to lower. The Monk's Fist, like, so this is your 2 mana 2/1 generic artifact, Compass Gnome, Field Creeper, you know the type. It's a good card if you need equipment. There are better equipment, but like you're not always going to have the better equipment. It's just a 2 mana 2/1 that leaves a +1/+0 bonus. It's pretty average. It's a bad Glimmerlight. It's a bad Glimmerlight. And Glimmerlight was great, so being a bad Glimmerlight still leaves you playable. It's solid without being great. I gave it a 3, floor of 3, ceiling of 4. Pew Pew UFO. This card's actively good. Isn't that weird? A 2-mana 0/4 flyer is really pretty good in this set. So yes, there's extra text, but we're just gonna focus on the stat line for now. At a 2-mana 0/4 flyer, it blocks most of the flyers in this set. And it's not bad ramp. Like, being able to put a land into play at instant speed is relevant for a lot of decks. Being an artifact is relevant for a lot of decks. So this is relevant to the green and white cards because of chocobos, red and green cards because of landfall, white and blue cards because of artifacts. And the like being able to block all of the flyers is great. And then you have this little bonus line of text. This means that it blocks the flyers, but your opponent doesn't get to attack even if you only have 2 towns in play. You need a few towns in your deck, but it's not hard to have a few towns in your deck. And compared to the other town payoffs, like, you don't need 10 towns for this card to be good. You need like 3 towns in your deck and you're happy. Great question. There are 12, hang on, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 at common or uncommon. There's a dedicate, 55% of packs have a town in the land slot. And there's a lot of rare towns, which I kind of want to talk about separately, but the rare towns are all really good. The rare towns are very strong. The rare towns have adventures attached, and then they also are lands. So you send them on an adventure and play a land in the same turn from the town. But yes, this card is way better than it looks. So the cards that I have on my list for cards that I'm going to be most in disagreement about with other content creators, Pew Pew UFO, Combat Tutorial, I'll talk about the other one later. Pew Pew UFO and Combat Tutorial are the ones that I gave significantly higher ratings than other content creators. This card's really good. Like, it doesn't look good, but it's very strong in this set. Yeah. Like, I would like to say, so I'm like, for the elixir, I'm certainly more excited about this card than other content creators, but I did not give it a higher rating. All right, up next, Relentless X ATM 092, the classic magic trope of robot spiders. This card's just like, so this is the same idea as the Iron Giant. Like, this is your late game finisher, but it's much better. It's a 6-mana 6/5 that's really hard to block with flashback. That's it. It's almost always gonna play near that ceiling. There's a few ways to exile, but not a lot of really punishing ways to exile. The existence of this card is why I don't hate cards like the Magic Pot. But yes, it's got Super Menace and Flashback, and it's pretty good. Super Menace and Flashback is together make the card good. Especially with this, so I gave it a 5, ceiling of 5, and it's usually gonna play at that ceiling. Like, this is a late game finisher. You're playing it because you need a late game finisher, or you're ramping into this, and it's a good card for that. Ring of the Lucy. This one's getting a revisit. This ramps you into some crazy stuff. It's a Ring of Sisay most of the time. Every once in a while, you will use the tap abilities. But if you're using the tap abilities to stay alive by staving off a flyer or a large creature, you are losing. Like, you don't want to be using the tap ability every turn. You want to, it's an emergency extra bit of gravy. But the 2-mana is good. The 2-mana is very relevant. Being able to ramp into a Relentless ATM or a Iron Giant makes the card a lot better. I did give the Iron Giant a higher ceiling just because of this ring. The problem with the ring is it's hard to build around because it's legendary. You don't get to cram 3 copies into your deck. Like, I'll play the first copy most of the time, but I'm not going to pick it that highly just because it's legendary. And as far as ramp goes, there's non-legendary ways to ramp in this set. Right. So, like, in terms of playing it out, like, your god hand is turn 4 Ring of the Lucci, turn 5 something like where are you, our Simic 8/8. Like, it does get you to 7 mana on turn 5, and then turn 6 you attack and they probably chump block, and then you pass, and then on their end step you tap a permanent, untap, then you tap a second permanent, so you pay 2 life and 4 mana to tap 2 permanents. That'll get you the game, but it's way more. Usually cards like Icy Manipulator tend to be more offensive than, or more defensive than offensive. This one is only good if you're playing it offensively, which is in a ramp deck you're inherently more defensive. But yeah, it's a solid card. I gave it a 4, floor of 3, ceiling of 6, medium effort. All right, so finally for the artifacts, we have the world map. 1 mana, so 1 mana, go get a land, a basic land is pretty good. 2 mana, go get a basic land is pretty bad. The fact that you have to pay 1 mana into it makes it a lot weaker. You don't get to replace a land with this because you can't keep 1 land world map. It sets you behind too much. However, there's a rare lands in this set. There's good rare lands in this set. So the second ability of go get any land, not just a basic land, is pretty great. Also, it is still fixing. It's not the fixing you want, but sometimes it's the fixing you need. If you're trying to splash something difficult, go ahead and include it. It'll be fine. And it's still a 1 mana artifact for the decks that want a 1 mana artifact. Most of the 1 mana artifacts you have will be better, but there's relevant text on this. Before we move on to lands, just going back to some of our other things. Hidden text. The hidden text on this set, there's mana value, there's sacrifice, there's all typings, artifact, enchantment, creature, saga, wizard. There's time, like vanishing is hidden text. Cards have so many extra aspects to them that matter so much. So it does make cards, you want to evaluate cards based on the whole of them. That's why some of these ratings might be a little higher. So world map does have a ceiling of 5 because of hidden text, buff, white, black, hidden text, sacrifice, hidden text, type artifact, hidden text, go get a rare land, hidden text, fix your mana. They add up and they can get you to that ceiling of 5. And there's a set full of stuff like that. All right. 30-second break while I drink some water, 90-second break while I drink some water and run an ad, and then we will do all of the lands, which are all towns. So if you have questions, now is a good time to ask questions. What's your questions? Any drastically wrong ratings so far? Things you want to see me change? Lowering that floor. I haven't seen any rares yet. The rares might make this better. This kind of card does tend to have rares that it synergizes with, or like weird situations. Like I love March of the Machine. Omen Speaker was pretty bad, and then that the Urn was pretty bad until you had both or 3 Omen Speakers. I don't think this card is as good as I want it to be. Like, I think I'm taking Magic Pot over the Lionheart most of the time, but +2/+1 is a lot of stats on a piece of equipment. I should probably drop this to a 1. I really don't want people looking at it and trying to play it. This one's getting a revisit, because I really love it, but I might be a little too high on it. You know what? Let's check. Checking for cards that want to accrue. Okay. There's no like volatile Wanderglyph style cards. Ooh, that's a really good question. I think it's this Cloud of Darkness, but I really love green black. Green black is one of my favorite things to draft. I think I gotta go with Garnet. I am so, like, I usually love green black graveyard shenanigans, but sagas are so much fun, and I love pulling lore counters off of them. I always have. You get so few opportunities. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Garnet. Final answer. All right, on to the lands. So every non-basic land that I haven't seen all the rare lands yet, is a town. Town is a type that matters, mostly for blue. There's a few green cards that matters for towns. There's a few green cards that matter for towns, but the blue ones are really good. The blue town payoffs are so powerful. Like, I wouldn't call this guy, the Omega, like, that cares about towns, but mostly the towns are a blue thing. They're best in blue, so it's incidental attacks for a lot of them. So I wouldn't take the adventurers in unless I'm really confident with my mana. Like, if I have 16 perfect on color lands, I can take the adventurers in, but it's so difficult to actually be like, to have a colorless only land is a real liability in this format. Even if you're only 2 colors. If I'm monocolored, I can play the in. The 2 life is relevant. Mostly I'm interested in this as a combo card. So, like, there's a card, so this Pew Pew UFO, you can put a land into play. There's another card that lets you return lands to your hand, so you can kind of blink it. But mostly I'm not that interested in this card. Maybe blue-green ramp if I can search up towns. If I care about the town keyword enough, I will play the adventurers in. I do think that's is good, not great, in the blue towns deck. Right. This is an honorary blue-green ramp card. But the capital city, this one's first pickable. This card's really good. Just like, I would play a town with cycling, but a filter town with cycling is great. I'm raising the, we're gonna go ahead and raise the floor to a 5 and change the effort to none later. But yes, I'm just putting this note in for me. Yeah, so this is a 0 effort card. You just play it, you treat it as a 5. It's really good. It's a good town. It is better in a town's Matters deck. So we'll go ahead and raise the ceiling to a 6 and keep it on low effort. But yeah, card's great. Towns are great. None effort left town. That's right. You leave this town with no effort. Good card. Cycling lands are good. They let you play more lands in your deck and not be flooded. This is a format where you'll have time to cycle also. Some formats that were too fast, like Aether Drift had lots of cards with cycling, but the format was so fast you never really had time to do it. This format, you'll have time to cycle. And being a town is a nice bit of a bonus. Eldon, Seeds of Sanctum. So this one has a lower floor, but milling 2 cards, like sacrificing this, you get to mill 2 cards and then you may sacrifice it. You always get to mill, you don't have to sacrifice. That means that you get to use this if your graveyard is empty. And if you hit something you want, pick it up. If you don't, leave it and keep going. And milling is a valuable thing. Like, milling is something black-green wants to do. This is a good card. This is a land you get to cash in for a real card later. That also enables archetypes to some degree. Solid card all around. Good land. All right, up next we've got the Gold Saucer. This one is less good. Like, flip a coin, make a treasure is cool. I'd rather just pay 4 mana to make a treasure. But if you can sacrifice 2 artifacts to draw a card reliably, the card is great. So if you are an artifact deck, if you have spare artifacts, or if you care about sacrificing, the card's pretty good. That's something that is not even archetype specific, it's card specific. If you have the cards that go with it, it's a good town for you to have. As much as I do love it, I'll play it more than I should, because flipping a coin to make a treasure, it's pretty fun upside, but you have to ignore it while evaluating the card because it's of lack of consistency. All right, so lastly, we have our dual colored cards. So 11 out of every 20 packs have a town in the town slot, and you can also have the common and uncommon other towns just randomly in the pack, but roughly half the, well, I guess 2/3 of the packs on average will have a town. All of the blue towns are inherently better. The blue town payoffs make it worth, here, let's just real quick pull some of them up. So we have Kirkin Merchant, is a 3 mana 1/4 looter. You can sacrifice it to draw 3 cards. And remember, card advantage is inherently more valuable in this set. There's not as much of it, and you need these cards that generate card advantage. 7 mana draw 4 cards is okay. 6 mana draw 4 cards is good. 4 mana draw 4 cards probably wins you the game. Similarly, tap sacrifice draw 3 cards probably wins you the game. These cards are so powerful that all of the blue towns got a full point stronger. If you are not sure what to take a blue town. I will also play Jamie! Oh my god, Jamie, it's really good to see you. How have you been? You caught me near the end of the set review, but we're just gonna finish up the set review, and then we're gonna be doing a little bit of the chaos drafting. So hi everybody, I'm Scuffle. I do educational content. Usually I don't talk about so I don't say hi to people until I'm between slides, but I really wanted to say hello right away. Hi everybody. So we're at the end of the set review. We're just on the dual colored towns, but the blue payoffs for having towns are so good that all of the blue towns are full point better. Thank you so much. This is my favorite shirt. I put it on for special occasions like set review day. This set's really good, Jamie. I wasn't expecting it to be good, but it's really good. Yeah, so if you are a blue-green deck, you're still playing your blue-red and blue-black and white-blue towns. If you're a blue-red deck, you're still playing your blue-green, blue-white, and blue-black towns, because those town payoffs are really good and the format is slow enough to support that many tapped lands. All of the other tapped lands are going to be, they should actually all have a ceiling of 6. But I'm not going to pick them speculatively, but I will pick them. So yeah, all the towns are floor 4, ceiling of 6, just based on how badly you need them, except the blue ones, which still have a ceiling of 6, but are going to average at 5. All right, that is going to be it for the set review today, but we're going to keep streaming. I'm just ending the set review.